There are times I get upset with myself. Well, hell, that's every day. But I get upset when I hear a song that I should have heard a long time ago. And I get so upset. It's like, where was I when this song was out? So this happened while I was watching Fallon. I was watching The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And him and Dennis Leary was performing this song. And it was great because the song had this melody, which sounds like a hip hop song that I know from back in the day, but I can't place it right now. But yeah, it's like, and then the crowd got into it. So then after the song was done, because it was great. And then Leary sat down with Fallon, and Leary was praising the Roots, saying, wow, these guys could play anything. They did a great job on this song. I say, is this an old song that I missed? Like, when did this song come out? So I typed in I went on YouTube and typed in what I thought was the title, and it was the title. It was the holeSong. Yeah, it was an old song. This song came out in 1993. I was so mad at myself because while I was listening to the song, I was like, this song sounds like something else from the 90s. This sounds like a song that should have been on 120 Minutes on MTV. But I felt like, well, maybe Fallon told Leary, hey man, I got this idea for a song, and we could talk about this dude from the suburbs and Taylor Swift and all that stuff. So I thought it was a newer song, and it wasn't. And then when I listened to the original song, it is great. It is great. It's even worse. The guy that version is even worse. Oh man, I love that song so much. Where was I when that song came out? But the thing I gotta remind myself, man, you can't hear everything. Like my wheelhouse is like the 80s, the 90s, most of the 2000s. And when we get to the 2010s, I start losing my fastball a bit, right? But if we talk about 1993, that's the grunge era. That's Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots. I should have known this song. And you had comedies on MTV, like you had The State, which I didn't know, which I really didn't watch, but there's a lot of dudes that came from that show. You had the Ben Stiller show with Ben and Janine Garofalo and Andy Dick. And then you go back to Remote Control, which Colin Quinn was on. And Dennis Leary played his brother in some skits. And then sometimes that's the first time I saw Adam Sandler, a skinny Adam Sandler. It's funny when you see a husky Sandler today, because people seem to forget that at one point he was like super skinny. But even though I didn't recognize Leary on Remote Control, I did recognize him for the MTV vignettes. And it was these black and white vignettes. And he would be walking back and forth with his cigarette, talking about life. And then at the end, he would say, I know you hear me knocking, and I think I'm coming in. And I'm bringing in Gary Coleman, Jim Brown, and Emmanuel Lewis, and we're kicking your ass. It was so great. And these things were only like 60 seconds long. He's like walking back and forth. There's this model named Cindy Crawford. Cindy Crawford, I love Cindy Crawford. Leary was so good in that stuff. But I had no idea that guy would actually become a really good actor. So he would go on MTV. He would start doing movies after that. And then years later, he had a cop show on ABC called The Job, I think, with Karen Parsons for The Fresh Prince. She either played his wife or his girlfriend or something like that. But the show only lasted for one season. So then a year or two after that, we get Rescue Me on FX. Man, when you're on demand today and you're trying to watch a show to watch and you see nothing but reality shows? There are no shows hardly on demand that's like Rescue Me. Rescue Me was fantastic. And I don't even think Rescue Me ever won an Emmy for Best Drama. Should have. I don't think Leary even won for Best Actor. Should have. At one point, Rescue Me was probably either the best or one of the best shows on TV. The theme song was great. And the funny thing is that Tommy Gavin, the role that Dennis Leary played, he is the guy from the holeSong. Because Tommy Gavin always felt like the problem was everybody else, but not him. He felt like I'm the guy who's making sense here. That sounds like me. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe that's why I don't have friends. Maybe that's why women run away screaming from me. Because I think, I'm right. You guys are wrong. But yeah, Tommy Gavin, he had issues with his family. He had issues with his brother. He had issues with his kids. He had issues with his wife. He had issues with his side girlfriend. He had issues with the firefighters. He had issues with the cops. But the problem was always him, but he didn't realize it because I'm Tommy Gavin. Shout out to Dennis Leary, man. That show was underappreciated. Just like it reminds me when John Hamm Never won. He didn't win an Emmy for playing Don Draper on Mad Men until the last season. That's crazy. And even my man who played Better Call Saul, I don't think he won an Emmy playing Saul on Breaking Bad, and he never won an Emmy for the last season for the full run of Better Call Saul. That last season was tremendous, and he never won. Bob Odenkirk never won an Emmy for that show. It's ridiculous. The only song I think of that reminds me of the holeSong, in recent times, it's probably Kanye West's Runaway. Yeah, I miss Ye. I miss that Ye. Because that's the video, if you don't remember, that's the video where he's like kind of dressed in a tuxedo and he's in front of a piano and he starts playing ding, 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 ding. And then all these ballerinas run out. It's a beautiful looking video because I think Ye directed it. And and that's this song's for the douchebags. This song's for the O's. This song's for the scumbags. I was like, oh my God, that's me. I'm not those things, but sometimes. Oh man. There's no Kanye's today. There's people who are creative, but man, there's nobody who's like him at his peak. The fact that he didn't win an album of the year once at the Grammys, one time, is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, that dude was so good. But yeah, that Runaway is such a great video. But that's the only song I can think of that comes close to the Dennis Leary track. So let me ask you guys a question. Have you come across a song or a video or a TV show that you didn't even know existed? That you said, how did I miss that? Usually for me, it's always with songs. I would hear a sample or I just hear a song that I thought I knew. Like, it's amazing to me that I skipped this holeSong. And the funny thing is when you read the comments on YouTube, people are saying stuff like, wow, like, I remember this song when I was in college, or our band played this song, or, you know, a friend of mine's passed away and this is his favorite song, or we had a celebration for my uncle and we played that song for him because he loved this song, or, you know, it's like, or it was like, thank you, Dennis Leary, because this song reminds me of me. The comments are wild, but it's a crazy song title. It's a crazy song period. It's an offensive song, but people love it because they can connect to it. That's the crest. This is a song of connection because either musically it's just fantastic. It sounds like something that could have been on like 120 minutes. It fits that time period. Like if you watch the video for holeSong, it's definitely from the 90s. It's definitely from the 90s, and it's this great visual that he kind of impersonates George C. Patton from the George C. Scott in the film Patton. Now, if you don't know what the film Patton is, a military film, so the General Patton and all that stuff. If you don't know it, I totally understand it. It's back in the 60s. But there's this great visual, one of the greatest visuals ever in cinema, where George C. Scott is almost like he's standing on a stage and he's draped. The American flag is draped behind them across. It is one of the best visual. Today it looks like CGI is a great visual, right? Well, Leary does that in the holeSong. And it's fantastic because he's dressed like George C. Scott. He's behind the American flag and he's just ranting. And it's like, yes, this is fantastic. He said I'm an a-hole dressed as Patton in front of the American flag. Shout out to Dennis Leary, man. Fantastic. Probably one of our most underrated comics. One of our most underrated show creators that we've seen in recent years. There aren't really too many Dennis Learys today. Like Leary came through that. Leary, the guys from the Def Comedy Jam era, all those guys came through watching dudes from the 70s, watching dudes from the 80s. And so their comedy is just sharper. The comedians that came through in the late 80s and early 90s are just tremendous, man. I'm not knocking the comedians that's around today. It's just the same. They don't have that same type of fire, except for a very few. So shout out to Jimmy Fallon. Shout out to Dennis Leary. Shout out to the holeSong. Shout out to Kanye West. I miss you, Ye. Because people say, I want the old Kanye. Nah, those times are gone. We just got to live with the stuff that we got, which was tremendous. So if there's a song or a video that you missed, let me know. Like during the pandemic, I realized I knew the Truman Show. I never watched the Truman Show. And I was mad about that. Maybe that's why I don't have any friends. I can't bring friends and you didn't watch the Truman Show and you didn't know the holeSong.